What happens when you cross the world's greatest hitman? The killer follows a world-class hitman as the audience dives deep into the psyche and mind of a killer. We first meet him in an abandoned construction site as he stretches and moves his muscles to stay sharp and centered. It tells us that he's been here for a while and he's done this dozens of times before. He surveys the area around him, making sure to spot every possible loose end in sight. From his disguise to his movements, everything is calculated, and in his head we hear his mantra, forbid empathy, empathy is weakness, weakness is vulnerability. The phrase echoes throughout the movie constantly, as if the killer himself needs a reminder that no matter how much someone might beg or plead, when the time comes, the deed must be done. Any form of morality or empathy is a weakness and could cost you your life and the mission at hand. He reassures the audience that he is one of the few, not one of the many, and that it's better that way. The killer stays true to his code and does not falter for anyone. After waiting a few days and scoping out his surroundings, the time presents itself as he sets up his rifle and finds the target in his sights from the building across the street. A dominatrix dances in front of him. The killer reassures the audience with his mantra before uttering the words, simple, as if he's done this hundreds of times before. But he fires the shot too soon and shoots the wrong target. His mission is blown. He evacuates the site, disposing of his evidence and fleeing the country. The movie makes note of how calculated and skilled he is, yet such a rookie mistake is what tips over the dominoes of this sleek journey towards revenge. As a result of his failed mission, his safe house is raided, and his wife is brutally beaten by multiple people to find the killer and make him pay. Thus, the killer has no choice but to track them down and murder the same people he worked for. During the killer's quest for revenge, we see the clean, methodical code that he lives by. With every step he takes, his tracks are covered. The killer keeps a discreet warehouse for his occupation, as he discloses 7 different locations where he stores his necessities. Inside are bins full of different identities and names, each fitted with the driver's license, passport, money, license plate, and other details. Among these are cases loaded with several bullets and ammunitions as needed. The killer drives a discreet and average-looking van that he later uses to transform into different service vehicles to fit his needs, first starting off as a delivery man. The killer quietly makes his way into his former contractor's office by cleverly timing the access door. Inside, he has the receptionist tie the lawyer onto his chair before having her tie herself inside the bathroom so she cannot alert the police, all while pointing his pistol at both of them to not risk anything. After he dispatches his boss's laptop and phone, which contains all current contracts and information, eliminating all traces of himself first before starting his interrogation. Throughout the process, he doesn't show emotion or empathy, following his code at all moments. After questioning Hodges for more information on the perpetrators, the killer forces his hand and shoots 3 nails into the boss's chest. And now he knows he needs to be quick. As the boss falls to the ground, he doesn't miss a beat and places a newspaper under the man's head to avoid blood on the ground. He calculates that he'll die in 6 to 7 minutes, given his body weight and age, but realizes he's wrong as the man passes away almost immediately. As a final hope, and knowing what's about to happen next, the receptionist makes a plea that she will tell him the names he's looking for in exchange that he doesn't kill her in a messy way for her family. He drives to her house before she reveals the information he's looking for and people behind his wife's attack. On the way downstairs, he quickly snaps her neck as her body tumbles down the steps, granting her wish while making sure the scene looked like an accident and not a murder. The killer quickly and efficiently disposes of the body in different areas, never to be found. After, it's off to the Sunshine State as he sets his eyes on the muscular target that assaulted and tortured his wife. He takes a gander at his surroundings and makes his way to the local market, where he purchases 3 different types of sleeping gels and medicines, a pack of lean ground beef, and a 40-ounce bottle of malt liquor, all of which play different roles in his plan, once again solidifying why he's the best in the world and such a forward thinker. Night falls and the killer uses the meat and sleeping pills to tranquilize the dog so he won't bark. He slowly makes his way into the target's house, cold and calculated as usual, except it doesn't take long for his plan to fall flat once more, no matter how much he planned. While searching for his target in the house, the brute breaks through the door and begins to pummel the killer. After tussling for a few minutes, the killer is able to get the upper hand and dispatches of the brute by shooting him in the head. It's messy, but he gets the job done, eventually. Before leaving the house, the dog wakes up and begins to chase him. He narrowly escapes and puts the bottle to good use by lighting the house on fire with a Molotov cocktail. He He cleverly keeps the dog alive to make sure it doesn't look like an assassination, but rather a drive-by or arson situation as the condo burns with the body inside. Continuing his trail of murder, the killer makes his way to New York to find the second person who attacked his wife, a tall woman with short hair, played by Tilda Swinton. Instead of finding a way to discreetly kill her, he walks through the front door and joins her for dinner, looking at her face to face. She knows the deal is done, and as she finishes her last meal, it becomes apparent that she knows the deal is done. In the cold New York weather, the killer and his target walk down the path near the river. As a last-ditch effort, the woman pretends to slip on ice and falls to the ground. She tries to force his hand, to which the killer sticks to his mantra, forbidding empathy and trusting no one. He shoots her right then and there without hesitation, revealing a knife in her hand if he would have been so naive to help her in her final moments. With those who wronged him and his wife dead on the ground, the killer makes one last stop to the client. In Chicago, he finds the gym/resort that his target is staying at and steals a janitor's keycard by slyly ripping it off his uniform. He makes his way into the locker room and opens up the client's locker before copying over his fob key with a device he bought online. This is to get into the client's room with a keycard copy when he could have just broken in any other way, but this is the most professional and discreet way. Once inside, he stands face to face with the client, and after hearing him for a bit, becomes clear that he has no idea who the killer is, and thus, in a rarity, the killer spares his life but threatens him with a final warning that if he tries anything, his death will be painful, leaving him with the unease that he'd find a way to kill him within a second, and he'd never see it coming. And just like that, the journey is complete. His mission is done. The killer covers his tracks, as we find him residing next to his wife on the beaches of the Dominican Republic, for which he informs us that he's decided to give up being one of the few, and instead will be just like us, one of the many, before the screen cuts to black. In the end, we're left as a witness, and with the uneasy feeling of paranoia, as we just witnessed a professional assassin at work, as he executed 5 people without a trace, and chances are they'll never be found. And that's what happens when you cross the world's greatest hitman. David Fincher's latest movie is a sleek and clean portrayal of a hitman with an extremely compelling and composed performance by Michael Fassbender. It's the closest thing to a Hitman movie I've seen. For those of you who may not know, Hitman is a long-running video game series that takes you around the world as you tackle missions as a professional hitman. There's a lot of similarities between the game and the movie, and of course we're omitting the mediocre Hitman movies that came out about a decade ago. One of the primary themes of the movie, and one of the mantras that continues to be repeated throughout, is the idea of sticking to the plan and cutting all loose ends. He's blocked off from everyone that he comes into contact with and looks at them as an opportunity or as bait. The killer's mindset is cynical and realistic. It's surprisingly humorous as well, as the voiceover includes jokes and a dark humor to it, similar in the way that Patrick Bateman does in American Psycho. Visually, the movie shines as Fincher utilizes his classic saturated yet warm color tone and the sharp camera cuts and pans similar to the killer's actions. There's a sterile look to the movie that works so well with the killings that are taking place. One of the most interesting criticisms I had with the film was the inconsistency of the killer and his actions. The film makes a point, or rather the protagonist does, that they are skilled and one of the best in the world, yet there are several moments in the movie that our protagonist is put in unfavorable situations of his own doing. Particularly his first missed shot, and the Floridian job where he engages in a messy hand-to-hand fight with his target, for which he barely survives and makes it out. The movie sells the idea that he's a pro, but doesn't hesitate to fall back on certain mistakes. Overall, his revenge spree is pretty clean and he comes out unscathed from the whole thing. Apart from some of the pacing, this is actually a great return for the acclaimed director, as I found myself thinking about the movie long after it's done, and of course this has to do with the extremely effective cinematography and editing, along with the performances in it, which Fassbender and Tilda Swinton and everyone in between really stands out as a unique cast. This is a really effective feature from Fincher, and I can't wait to see what's next. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more, please be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest videos, and comment below if you like this video format and want to see more like this. Placid5, signing off.